Hi everyone, my name is Corey Robbins, and today we are going to look at interfacing with Cubase through Lemur, which will let us create a touch surface or a touch control surface to be able to manage track navigation, articulations, CC data, transport, and mixing. Before we get too far in, there's a couple of considerations. One thing is that you are definitely going to have some sort of a tablet or a touchscreen device. The most common way of doing this is through either an iPad or through some sort of an Android tablet. You can certainly use your phones. I have a standalone device. If you go into the deeper corners of the web, you'll find a lot of people have created very large touchscreen surfaces with an Android TV box and a touchscreen display, which totally works and gives you pretty much unlimited control over the size of the screen that you're going to be dealing with. I do think that most of the commercially available tablets are too small for what I was looking to do. This is actually the touchscreen that I'm using right now, but the way I went about it was to get a Samsung Galaxy View, which apparently is a fairly crappy consumer device. It does not have very good reviews, but for me, I thought it would be pretty well perfect because it's got an 18.4, I think, inch display. It works really well for this purpose. I will say that at least for the Galaxy View, it works much better if you get a Samsung external Ethernet adapter thing that goes into the USB port. That made it to where my connection with the Lemur Daemon, which we'll discuss later, is very reliable and solid. It's also cut out some lag, not a lot, but some lag. Anyway, so as you can see, I have several buttons on this screen, and there's several things that I can use to control whatever template I happen to be in. Now, we are going to go into a couple of parts on this. You've got Cubase setup, which is by far the most complicated, and what we're going to be looking at first. There's the tablet options that you have available, and then the third and final part will be the Lemur setup, which is the actual integration and building out of your touchscreen template or control surface. So let's go ahead and jump right into the Cubase setup. Right now I just have open the template that we were working on in our last video series. So as you can see, there are several folders, several MIDI tracks in here, and while it is totally possible to find what I'm looking for just by scrolling, I do have to scroll, which is kind of annoying, but I also have to deal with having quite a large palette all the time. Now, I mean, I can manually go through and click these folders and that kind of stuff to kind of personalize the view, but if I prefer, and I do tend to prefer, I can start with having nothing in the template whatsoever and choose to start with, I don't know, maybe I want to start just doing a string ensemble. I can say just show me Berlin strings, and I have just that palette available to me without having to deal with the entire rest of the orchestra and, you know, cinematic percussion and all that kind of stuff that's in my way. It's more of a focused approach. It's still one template, and I still only have to have the one Vienna ensemble instance, or just those connections happening, and I don't have to reload templates to change just because I want a more narrowed approach. I could also throw in the oboes to it if I wanted to do a string and oboe ensemble or whatever. Anyway, so I can control what I'm seeing down to the section or individual instrument, or I can do the whole woods grouping. So I can just do an entire wood ensemble, and I can pick and choose from different brands of samples. So for today, we're going to do something very similar to this. Well, we are going to do this, but I'm going to make it to where I can see the Spitfire chamber strings, because I don't have it set up to where I can pull those yet. If you'll remember, in our last videos, I was pretty adamant that my folder structure matched the names of my previous template because I didn't want to have to recreate the entire Lemur surface. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead and add that right now. So right now I have it in my Spitfire Audio strings section. It's already labeled in the folder structure. So what I need to do is come up with some sort of a query that will say, hey, find this. We're going to use Cubase's Project Logical Editor to do that. And then I'm going to hook into the key commands macro features, which is going to call that Project Logical Editor. But then I'm going to go back to the Project Logical Editor to be able to make another one that will call the macro, and then we're going to set the whole thing up through a generic remote trigger, which Lemur will be instructed to interface with. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I've already done this first part because I obviously have some of this already set up, but I'll walk you through what you need to have anyway. So go ahead and go to your edit menu and choose Project Logical Editor. And you are going to start out with something that looks like this. It's very empty and not very helpful right now. But we need to make something that says that you want to hide all non-MIDI data or non-MIDI tracks, and you want to hide the VST instruments folder, because when I say show the chamber strings, I don't want to see the VST instrument and the MIDI tracks. I want to see just the MIDI tracks because I'm not writing on the instruments. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a hide for non-MIDI tracks. So the way this works is you read across and then down. So in this one, we want to create a filter target that's set to media type is, and you just click on that square right here. Plus sign adds another one. So, oops. Okay, so once you hit your plus sign, you're going to click media type is. Condition, we want to equal. And the parameter 1, we have device. We're going to do plus sign again. And you click bool for and or. We want both of these to be or. You're going to do the same thing for audio. Then you're going to do media type is equal to automation. Once you've got all three of these, you'll go over here and you'll choose one parenthesis, and this top part's good. Then you'll come down here and you'll hit your plus sign. You'll choose track operation. Operation is hide track. You'll see that we don't have a show track here, and we want to parameter 1 to be enabled. This will be transform, macro will be not set. Once you've got it, you'll hit your plus sign and you'll name it. Okay, so after we've got that, we also want to do hide VST instruments. So this one's a little bit easier. It's just got the one line at the top, and we're going to do filter target name, condition contains, parameter 1 is going to be VST instruments, close it with a parenthesis. tracker operation is the same, so we're going to be track operation, hide track, enable, and again transform, +, save. Okay, so now that we've got that going, we are going to do a new one. So I'm going to get rid of this, get rid of this. So starting with the new one, I'm going to do +, container type is equal, then parameter 1 is going to be folder track, +, we want that to remain and. We want this to be name equals, and then under parameter 1 we'll click and type the name of the folder as it shows in the track list. Close it with the parenthesis. Okay, under here we want to click +. We're going to change action target to track operation. Operation will be changed to hide track, and this is going to be our show chamber strings. So we want to change parameter 1 to disable. So track operation, hide track, disable. Once we've got that there, we'll hit our +, and then we'll name it show Spitfire audio chamber strings. And then I'll click OK. So we've got our show. Everything is good there. Now we need to have a hide for all of these also. So I'm going to go ahead and do all of this exactly the same, and then I'm going to change parameter 1 to enable. Then I'm going to go ahead and hit the + again for store preset. And then I'll just change the word show to hide. Alright, so once you've done this for each one of the groupings that you're going to want to show and hide, so pretty much every folder, if you want to do it that way, you are done with this portion of the Project Logical Editor. So we're going to go ahead and close this out. Now we're going to go to our File menu and choose Key Commands. So once we're in the Key Commands window, we're going to come down to the bottom and do Show Macros. And you'll see I already have most of mine set up. So I need to create a new macro. And I'm going to double click this to call it Show Spitfire Chamber Strings. I need to find the Process Project Logical Editor option. And this is going to have all of the things that we created in the Project Logical Editor. We need to do our 2 hides first. So we want to hide non-MIDI tracks. Select your macro, then you select the one that you want to add, then you hit Add Command. Okay, so we've got our hide non-MIDI tracks. We want to also show Spitfire. Now we'll do hide VST instruments. Okay. Once we've got that one, we'll do new macro. We'll do hide Spitfire audio chamber strings. Make sure that's there, and then on the hide ones you don't have to do anything except for choose your hide macro, add the command, and then you are good to go. So once you've done that with everything, you're going to go ahead and click OK like I just did, and then we head back over to the Project Logical Editor. So Edit menu, Project Logical Editor. Now we're going to do a brand new, completely empty one. So everything needs to be out of this entirely. All you do is come down to macro, and you find the one that you just create, or you find each of the ones that you just created. So I need to show Spitfire chamber strings +, show Spitfire and I'm going to end it with macro. To do another one with hide. And that's it. So once you've got that finished, you're finished with the Project Logical Editor entirely. So we've got our initial Project Logic Editor that creates a hide non-MIDI, a hide VST instruments, and then a show folder name for everything that you want to display individually, and a hide folder name for everything that you created a show for. Once you've got all that made, you go to your key commands and your macros to go ahead and set up your workflow, which starts with hide non-MIDI, then you have your show folder name, ends with hide VST instruments, and then your hide equivalent just has the hide Project Logical Editor preset that you created. Then you go back to your Project Logical Editor and you set your triggers for the macro that you created, making sure that you keep your naming convention so that you know how to find it later. Now what we have to do is go to our generic remote setup. So if we go to our studio menu and we do studio setup, you're going to click on the + and choose generic remote. So I've already got these set up, so I'm going to go ahead and create the triggers for the remote. So I'm going to click my add button, control name. This is what you're going to basically name the button. So I'm going to do show Spitfire chamber strings. MIDI status is going to do control change. Yeah, controller, sorry. MIDI channel is going to be 1. Address is going to be different per button. So for mine, I'm going to go ahead and do address is 59. Receive, add, change this to hide, 60. Okay, so down here on controller name, I'm going to click the top one and choose device, and we want to do command. Then we want to do, you have to do the process logical editor. And then you do the macro copy that you created. Show choose the one that has macro in the title. Same thing for hide, command, process, Project Logical Editor, hide with macro, then you hit apply. Now I'm going to go ahead and add these to my existing remote that's already mapped. It'll be pretty much the same thing as you adding your second one. But I just want to rename, so Embertone. Okay, so we want to do show Spitfire chamber strings, hide, Spitfire chamber. Okay, so we've got our MIDI channel is 1. Address is going to be just sequential from whatever you start. Start at 1, everything gets labeled till you end, basically. Max value is 127, flags receive. Then we go find that down here. Okay, so here we need to change this one to show Spitfire audio chamber spring. Okay. Apply. All right, so now if I get rid of that and I hit what used to be the Ember Tone button, I do get the Spitfire chamber strings only. I can tell that it's not all of the Spitfire strings because the frozen strings didn't show up. So that's all working the way that it's supposed to. That's fantastic. All right, so moving on to the next portion is tablet setup. For the tablet, like the one that I'm using, it's just normal. Sorry, it's just the normal Android operating system. I don't have any weird rootkits or anything like that installed. The only thing that's really needed, other than I honestly think that the Ethernet adapter is not really an option, at least for this tablet, and I've read that it's pretty much an Android thing, so you should get that. But the only thing that you have to make it work other than that is this Lemur application and a shared network. So once you have the Lemur app from the Play Store, which is free, you can go into the setup or the settings for your application. It has all of the connections. It does not like to be controlled with this though. So all of the relationships, so MIDI 0 on my Mac to MIDI 0 on the tablet. And this is really pretty simple to do. Like MIDI 4, if I click unassigned on MIDI 4, then I just want those to match. So daemon output 4, same thing. Next one, input 4, and the numbers just match all the way down. As long as on your actual computer you're running, where is it? The Lemur Daemon, which comes with the installer from Line's website, which I'll try to link below. There's a bug in this one which didn't exist until I updated right before I started doing this, which should pretty well teach me a lesson. Anyway, so once you do that, it automatically talks to the computer and you're good to go. You don't have to link them again. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit cancel. I'm done. So then you have to get into the actual setup of the tablet, meaning with buttons and that kind of thing. So we're gonna go ahead and start this next part by opening the Lemur Editor. This program looks quite old, honestly, but has some issues, at least in the version that I have installed, and I can't seem to downgrade it because I can't find an old installer. So first of all, as I mentioned, it only seems to work on one of my 3 screens, and the mouse alignment is janky, which again wasn't an issue previously. So this might be just something that I'm being affected with at the moment. So, you know, you might have much better luck than I am, or than I currently do. But this is where we are, so this is what we're gonna work with. When you first open... Oh, the other thing that I don't like is that you can't zoom in or zoom out of the work area. So my tablet is 1920 by 1080, which does not fit in this little area. Obviously, if I had a larger monitor, it would. But this is on a TV that's not 4K, so yeah. Anyway, the first thing that we're going to do whenever we open the Lemur Editor is create our new project, or it opens as a new project. We need to create an interface. So that is this green square thing down here, the double layered square. So once you click on that, it's going to ask you to name it. I always put the tools for arranging the tracks and choosing articulations and that kind of stuff in the compose interface, but you can call it whatever you want. If you have one, it doesn't really matter, like you don't ever see it. Okay, so once we've got that, we need to start thinking about buttons. So in my case, I have buttons for all of the show and the hides that actually toggle. So when you hit it the first time, it says show. When you hit it again, it says hide. I've also got the track organization ones that do this sort of sweeping changes, like the show all tracks and fold all tracks, unfold all of them, that kind of stuff. I've got transport, MIDI edits, and then the articulation adjustment stuff. If you are trying to do just the basic track organization stuff, then you're going to want to lay yours out differently than if you're going to have articulations and that kind of stuff also. Basically, what I'm saying is know what you want the tablet to do, and that needs to inform how you lay out your stuff. So because this is just a demo, I'm not going to worry so much about making it super well laid out or anything like that. So to get started, I'm going to go over here to the right palette and choose custom button, hold down the mouse button, and I'm going to drag it into the window. Now, this might be interesting to resize. Yeah. Nope. Come on. Okay. So inside of my button, let's see. Need to move this up here. On the left side, I'll have mapping and objects, and then on the right side, I'll have my project window, and then at the bottom, I'll have scripts. So those are the things I need to be able to see. So over, let's see. I need to change mapping to MIDI, and then for message, I'm going to go ahead and change it to program change. And that's the only thing I have to change there, this message. Then over here, style off, I want to do show okay, and then for style on, okay. Now you can change the colors to be different for on and off other than the default. I have mine color coded based on section, but that's more just whatever you feel like at the time or whatever helps you organization purposes. Okay, so once you've got it labeled, we're gonna come over here, and this is where things get slightly more complicated, but they're really not that bad. So as soon as I figure out how to click OK, I want to click on the little triangle that expands, and above custom button I am going, or with custom button selected, I'm going to come down here and click on script, and then the name of the script matters, so I'm going to do lowercase on and then activate with open and then close parentheses. Then I'm going to click OK. For execution, I want to change the drop down menu to be on expression. Maybe. Dang it. Okay. And then in the box beside that, I want to just be an X. The reason that it's an X is because right there and right there. Okay, we just want them to match. So let me find that again. In our field, you're going to do CTL out for control out. So we're sending MIDI control, then open parentheses. The first number is going to be the daemon interface. So if you're going to do all of this out on 0, then that's going to be 0. If you, and what I mean by that is, actually let me drag this up here. Studio setup. This right here. So like generic remote, this has to be mapped to one of these inputs and one of these outputs that you get from the setup Lemur daemon. Once that's there, this number becomes important. So whatever that number is, 0 through 7, is the one that you need to put in first. So I'm using 3. So I'm going to put a 3. And then the second number is going to be the address. So for my show Spitfire chamber strings, that's going to be 59 for show, 60 for hide. So then I'm going to do 59 as my second number, 127, which is the max value. And then I'm going to do 1 for channel. So we've got 3, 59, 127, and 1. So interface, address, max value, then MIDI channel. Then I'm going to end that with a semicolon, and you'll see that it turns into color coded instead of red, and that's all you have to do for that script. Now all of these have an on and an off, so I need to go back to custom button and hit script again, and then I'm going to do on deactivate, open and close parentheses, making sure to capitalize the D. Change manual to on expression, X, then again CTL out. We want same numbers, except for we want the hide address, then same. Okay, so this one says that on hide, I want you to send MIDI controller 60. And on show, I want you to send MIDI controller 59. through the third interface to channel 1. So once that's hit, that's going to go straight to Cubase because it's mapped right here, and it will activate that show. I'm going to go ahead and open new. Here, change to compose. Okay, so that's all fine, and I want to actually play this. Okay, play. Find the device. Connect. Okay, so that automatically updates the tablet, and this keeps it in sync. So now they're the same, and that should, if I go over to Cubase, whenever I click the chamber strings and toggle it back and forth, we'll edit. Okay, so that's how your show and your hide works for folder tracks. There is a lot more that you can do with this, so I am going to go ahead and break it down to more than one video. The next video, since we've got all the setup covered in this one, we'll go ahead and cover the bigger track organization stuff that goes through, like show all tracks, data by cursor, data by locators, all that kind of stuff, and some MIDI editing, that kind of stuff. But hopefully this was enough to get you started on your organizational escapades for your template, and I look forward to seeing you guys again. Thanks.